The Indian government has been sending out these so-called victory delegations to 32 countries, celebrating their perceived success over Pakistan. Now, what's interesting isn't the outreach itself, it's the performance of it. This is classic BJP theater politics. What do I mean by theater politics? It's when political action becomes a performance. The content doesn't have to be deep or effective. It just needs to be loud, dramatic, and distracting enough to mask the real unresolved issues. As long as the narrative is grand, and the leaders act with enough flair, the approval ratings follow. Modi doesn't actually need the international audience to be convinced. What matters is that domestic supporters see him sending out those delegations. It's for the show. Now, long before Modi, Asia had another theater politics pioneer, Japan's former Prime Minister Junichiro Koizumi. Let's go back. Post-World War II Japan was a stronghold of backroom politics. The Liberal Democratic Party, LDP, ruled from 1955 to 1993 almost without interruption, controlled by faction leaders who traded favors, cash, and political positions behind closed doors. It was a one-party system for nearly 40 years. But when Japan's economic bubble burst in the early 90s, things started unraveling. Bad debts hit 80 trillion yen. Unemployment soared past 5%. And instead of relief, the LDP raised the consumption tax. Voters had enough. Many turned to the Democratic Party, and for the first time the LDP's dominance cracked. The last gasp of backroom politics? Yoshiro Mori, a PM from the Abe faction. In 2001, when a Japanese research vessel collided with a U.S. submarine and several students went missing, Mori, unfazed, kept playing golf for another hour and a half before dealing with the crisis. That arrogance cost the LDP dearly. Approval ratings plummeted to 10%. Enter Koizumi, a fringe member of the LDP with no strong factional backing. He had no shot through traditional party politics. So he blew it all up. In 2001, during the LDP's internal election, he resigned his party posts and launched a public campaign with bold slogans like, "Destroy the LDP if it resists reform." He took to the streets, bypassing the faction system entirely, and spoke directly to grassroots members. The result? A landslide win, 87% of the local vote, and he became prime minister. For 5.5 years. Did the economy improve under Koizumi? Not particularly. But his popularity soared because he mastered theater politics. He dominated the media. Daily press briefings. Regular lunches with newspaper editors, even gossip racks. He even invented a 15-second Q&A format, perfectly timed to hijack news segments with snappy quotes. And every time his approval rating dipped below 40%, he'd drop a fresh headline-grabbing topic. For example, privatizing Japan's postal system, the largest state-run enterprise with over 400 trillion yen in assets. When his reform bill was blocked in the Senate, Koizumi dissolved parliament, labeled his opponents traitors, and launched a full-blown public campaign. Here's where it got theatrical. He recruited high-profile women, celebrities, anchors, even an adult magazine editor, and sent them to run against the traitors in their own districts. These assassin candidates weren't just campaigners, they were headline bait. Suddenly, the debate wasn't about postal reform. It was a reality show. Assassins versus traitors. Voter turnout exploded. Koizumi won a 2/3 majority. Reform passed. And that's the magic of theater politics, using dramatic conflict to sidestep the core issues. Pensions? Healthcare? Forgotten. The public eye was on Koizumi's battles. But here's the thing. Theater politics isn't really politics. It's entertainment. Politicians play actors, generating headlines, creating spectacle. And like all shows, repetition breeds boredom. Eventually, people remember they care about their lives, jobs, healthcare, education. Koizumi knew this. After 5 years, he stepped down, passing the baton to Abe. Now Putin, another expert. Early in his tenure, Russia hadn't yet locked down elections. So every time his popularity wavered, a conveniently timed terrorist attack would appear. Putin would take charge live on camera, and his strongman image would be cemented. Economic concerns? Delayed. And of course Trump, the master of modern political theater. America's manufacturing jobs haven't returned. Inflation bites. But Trump doesn't need economic miracles. He needs noise. immigration, trade wars, cancel culture, elite universities. These aren't policy debates. They're episodes in a never-ending show. Back to Modi. He's only 8 years younger than Koizumi, but there's no evidence he learned theater politics from Japan. It seems he independently arrived at the same playbook. The BJP was founded in 1980 with a socialist bent. In its first election it won just 2 seats. After that, it pivoted. To manufacture political traction it picked a fight, not with ideas but with India's Muslims. The turning point? The campaign to demolish the Babri Masjid in Ayodhya. A mosque built on what Hindus believe was the birthplace of Lord Rama. No archaeological evidence, no temple in sight, just a legend and a mosque. But the BJP, in partnership with the VHP Vishwa Hindu Parishad, launched a movement to tear it down and build a temple. In 1990, BJP leader L.K. Advani went full theater. He dressed like Rama, rode a chariot across India, and rallied Hindus with cries to fight for Rama. It was broadcast live. The result? In the 1991 election, BJP jumped to 120 seats, dominating Hindu-majority states. In 1992, their supporters tore down the mosque. Over 2,000 people died in the ensuing violence. But politically, BJP surged again, now 161 seats. They'd found their formula. Religious spectacle equals political capital. Fast forward to 2024. The Rama Temple, delayed for 2 decades, finally held a premature inauguration just before the election. Modi, dressed in Hindu robes, observed an 11-day fast to attend. And like clockwork, support rallied. Compared to Koizumi, BJP has a much wider theatrical range. Japan is homogeneous, religious conflict is rare, and it's an island nation with few foreign policy distractions. India, meanwhile, is a mosaic of tension, religious, regional, international. The BJP has a deep well to draw from. In 1998, when BJP came to power but lacked a majority, what did they do? They staged 5 nuclear tests, including a 45-kiloton hydrogen bomb. The goal wasn't to threaten global powers, it was to stoke nationalism at home. The next day, PM Vajpayee wrote to President Clinton, pointing at China and Pakistan as threats. Pakistan then responded with its own nuclear tests, validating the BJP narrative. Months later, the Kargil War broke out, the biggest India-Pakistan clash since 1971. Despite heavier Indian losses, BJP spun the war as an epic tale of heroism. Bollywood joined in with films like Kargil Heroes. And in the 1999 elections, BJP swept to 299 seats, a stable majority. Modi, meanwhile, had been part of BJP since the 1980s, involved in every step, from the Ayodhya campaign to elections in Hindu heartland states. As Chief Minister of Gujarat, he presided over major economic growth, but also infamously, the 2002 riots after a train fire killed 58 Hindu pilgrims. Modi blamed Muslims, led mass mourning, and openly declared that Muslims must submit to Indian culture or face consequences. Over 1,100 were killed. The violence turned into a launchpad. He donned religious garb, led chariot tours, and remade himself as a Hindu strongman. By 2014, over 72% of BJP's national leadership was pro-Modi. He ran for prime minister promising to rebuild the Rama Temple, saying it was God's will. Later, in response to backlash from demonetization and tax reforms, Modi upped the ante in Kashmir. When tensions with China and Pakistan spiked, the Modi government framed each clash, even minor skirmishes, as evidence of India's righteous struggle, and each time Bollywood made the sequel, Uri, the surgical strike based on India's retaliation after 19 soldiers died in a 2016 attack. The movie topped box offices just in time for the 2019 election. Here's the strategy. Keep territorial disputes loud but controlled with China. With Pakistan, keep up constant tension, but never push toward annexation. Neither side wants new territory. Too many ethnic tensions at home already. Instead, border conflicts become domestic distractions. A mutual theater. In 2024, BJP rushed the Rama Temple opening ahead of schedule. Modi fasted, dressed as a priest, and ran on that momentum. But the results? BJP won just 240 seats, far fewer than the 370 they hoped for. For the first time since coming to power, Modi needs coalition partners. And that's why the victory delegations matter. They're not about military success, they're part of the stage. Zooming out, in local politics too, performance often trumps policy. Behind every official's promotion are hidden factors: loyalty, networks, social ties. Public-facing metrics like performance rankings? Often secondary. So what do leaders like Koizumi, Modi, Putin, and Trump have in common? They all rose in the wake of closed-door politics. In Japan, the LDP dominated. In India, Congress ruled. In Russia, it was the USSR and Yeltsin's handpicked successor. In the US, the two-party system had locked out outsiders. When the public feels excluded for long enough, they don't just want policy. They want drama, emotional payoff, a voice. That's what theater politics gives them. But here's the warning. When leaders start acting, democracy becomes a stage, not a process. The antidote? Transparency, inclusion, letting ordinary people take part in serious decisions. Otherwise, we get performers who stoke division, and we forget to ask about the real issues. And on a personal level, to resist theater politics, we've got to strip away the adjectives, drop the assumptions, and focus on the data. Track stories from start to finish. Hold people accountable for their past claims, especially if they got emotional wins from them. And lastly, accept that the world is messy. No perfect answers, just choices and trade-offs.